Stacy from Cinnamon Crunchy Mama. She lives in San Diego with me. We met each other because our kids went to school together, and she also teaches parenting things. You want to tell us who you are, Stacy?
Sure, I'm the semi-crunchy mama, like Kelly said, and I'm whereas Kelly is a parenting coach, I am a coach for parents. So I've had some questions coming up in my community and in my group, and stuff that I want to learn as well. And I was like, you know what? I don't really have a great answer for this, but you know who will is Kelly. So I kind of strong-armed her into teaching some classes with me.
She totally did. Last week, she said, "You want to teach a webinar in a week?" And I went, "Okay, sure. I've never done one before, but why not? Let's do it." And our content is written, our slides are done, and we are ready for you. But when you say you're a coach for parents, what does that mean?
So you have parents who come and say, hey, I have this issue with my 3-year-old, for example. And you're like, oh, okay, here's what's going on with 3-year-olds. Let's explain where they're at, where you're at as a parent, and kind of come up with some parenting strategies to help you, right?
Sure.
Basically, to simplify it. Whereas I'm dealing with, we all know that a lot of parenting stuff brings up things for us, and I deal with that end. So I have a lot of resources for actual parenting techniques with, in that gentle parenting, respectful parenting realm. But I would be the person who, like, if, let's say, we'll use you as an example, Kelly. If Kelly was stressed out because she's having trouble kind of reconciling her new identity as a mom, or she's just stressed out and is having a hard time balancing everything she's trying to do, and is just really just kind of overwhelmed with everything.
Okay.
You come to me and be like, okay, like, what are your priorities? Like, let's kind of dump everything out, kind of sort of reorganize it so that you can kind of feel more in control of your life, which in turn allows you to be more of the kind of parent you want to, with these other strategies that I don't do.
Okay, so you help people get to be comfortable with their own parenting and their self-care and all of that kind of thing, and I help give them skills for the actual child. So you work inside. Well, we both work inside, but okay, I'm clear. Thank you.
Yes.
So
kind of, I mean, it's a lot of it's the same. It's all from a different angle, and so a lot of what I do does help parents be better parents. But I don't necessarily, like, I have a lot of articles and things. I send people to your information a lot, but I'm not necessarily one. Like, I can talk from my own experience, but I don't necessarily have like a whole foundation of this specific approach to parenting that works.
Okay, so now tell me why you wanted to do these 3 specific webinars that we're doing, and can you tell us what they are?
It was all because other people wanted them and not at all selfish, Kelly. No, I have a 6-year-old, a 3.5-year-old, and I have a baby who is almost 1. And my 3-year-old in particular, I have several friends who we all have this cluster of 3-year-olds, cluster indeed, and they are all very 3. And this is my second round of 3-year-olds, and he's also having a lot of middle child feelings, and it's really horrible. And I remember it being horrible, but with 3 kids, it's even harder. So with the questions I've been getting and the questions I have myself, I thought that I've been asking for years. I have a couple of friends who do parenting classes, and I'm like, just teach a class on 3-year-olds. Because I feel like, we get through the toddler, like the early toddler phase, which is like that big learning curve. And then I don't think the 2s are that terrible. Like 2.5 is rough, but like it's kind of a fun age because like they're getting more communicative and really developing personalities.
I feel like that's 2 is kind of not as representative as, 3 is definitely, I think, harder. 2's.
Yeah, and then 3 hits, and you're like, why is my kid possessed by a demon and like hates everything that they actually like and hates everything that they actually hate, and everything is horrible. So I really wanted a class on just that age because it does feel so hard. Because I think the other thing is it brings up a lot of triggers for us, and like that we don't necessarily expect. And then, like I mentioned, then my 3-year-old is also a middle child, and some of the sibling stuff that I've dealt with before, I have new sibling stuff with 3 of them. So I am super interested in Kelly's insight.
Okay, so that leads me into talking about what we're doing. So we're doing a class on Monday at 10:30 Pacific Standard Time on Threenagers. And then we're doing a class on siblings on the 11th.
It's the following Monday.
Yeah, the following Monday, and then on that Friday, we are doing a class on just how to listen so that you can understand what your child is trying to tell you because they're not telling you, and so you have to be the detective sleuth decoder person with your secret decoder cereal box ring.
Yes.
And so we'll talk about that. But for this class, do you want to talk about what we're talking about for this class, or do you want me to do that?
For 3-year-olds?
Yes.
Well, I really hope you're just going to tell me how to get my kid to stop screaming all the time, but why don't you talk about it?
Okay, so we'll talk about, I'm going to hit a few things and I'll give you one tip to take away. And we'll put the links in the comments and all the stuff that you need. But for 3-year-olds, we're going to talk a little bit about, we took common questions from all our followers in our groups, on our pages, and we wrapped them up into a class just for you. So we are going to talk about the whining, the screaming, the negotiating, the boundary pushing, the wanting to do, I do it, I'll do it myself, do it myself, do it myself, when you don't have the time. Because it's all awesome that they want to do all these things themselves and we don't want to squash their independence. But sometimes we have to get in the car. So how do we manage that without squashing their independence? How do we get out the door on time? How do we understand how to be patient with them? And so then we'll talk into why they're like that. What do they do with that? Why do they do what they do? So we'll talk about tantrums and screaming and boundary pushing again, doing it themselves, all of these things that are common struggles for 3-year-olds and why their brains are acting like this. There's a reason and it's normal and it's okay. So we'll take some of the mystery out of it for you and then give you the skills to deal with it. So one of my favorite things is when your child is doing an unexpected thing is to say, for example, I think I've talked about this on a video before, but last year around Christmas time, we decided to go to the Monterey Bay Aquarium with my nephew, and it was New Year's Day. So it was insanely crowded. And he was like this fast little guy that would weave in and out between everything, and we could not find him. So I finally found him, and we went over the tide pools where there was seaweed, and he went in and he touched it, and then he ran. So I was the only one that saw this happen. So I went over to him and I said, "Hey, buddy, you were at the tide pool and then you ran and we didn't know where you were and we got kind of scared. What's your plan?" And he goes, the seaweed was slimy. I didn't like it. I want to touch the animals. "Oh, so your plan is to go to the other animals?" "Yeah." So just by saying, "What's your plan?" I was able to get a lot more information about why he just bolted. And then I did what I call closing the loop. And I said, "So when you run without telling us, we don't know where you are. And we don't want to lose you in here. There's a lot of people." So I build the reason into what I'm saying. And he goes, "Oh, okay, next time I'll tell you." And I said, "That's a great idea." And he did. And so what's your plan is a great phrase for getting them to stop and think. Like, what do I have a plan? What is my plan? Oh, I should have a plan. And they make one up. So that helps with stopping that really impulsive behavior that sometimes is stemmed by just something they're trying to avoid. So that's my one tip for the day that you can take with you. And again, you want to tell about the classes that we have coming up, Stacy?
Yeah, so I threw the link for just the Threenager class in the comments. And then we made it so that if you guys, like I said, I personally want all 3 of these, which is why I suggested the topics. So you can also buy them as a pack. So if you want just one, you can come to just one. If you want to come to all 3, there's a discount if you come to all 3. So the second one is sibling struggles, because I find that, I felt like, with one kid, I kind of had gotten some of these techniques down, and then adding a second one to the mix made everything a million times harder, and adding a third one added yet another layer. So I know for me, like, some of the biggest triggers are like when they're fighting, and like I know that I'm supposed to coach them through this problem solving so they can learn how to do it themselves. But there's like that missing part in the middle that I'm hoping Kelly will be able to fix for me.
I hope I can. I'm not magic, but I do help. And part of the thing is you're not trying to make your child a different person. They're still small. They're still going to be hard. But what this does is it gives you the confidence to know, okay, I'm handling this right. And accepting that it's going to be hard, and maybe sometimes even harder when you're using these new skills, but it's effective. And that's what you want, so they can grow up to be effective people.
Right. And then the third class is one that I came up with because, or I asked Kelly to do
Yes.
because, like in her example that she just used with her nephew, like that, like, what's your plan? Then he said, I want to go see the other animals. Well, you have to know how to do that. And
Right.
actually, like, I always tease Kelly because, like, I'm a parenting coach and I'm really good at doing this with adults, and I often struggle to do it with my kids.
Right.
So how to, like, because I'm sure we've all read all those gentle parenting articles, and it's like that empathetic and active listening. But if we're not in the headspace to do that, it seems like, you know, in the book, they're like, oh, why did you hit your, you know, it's like they hit their brother. And you're like, oh, it must have been this trigger from last week when you were really upset about this thing that you didn't even mention. And you're like, where did you come up with this? Yeah. And then the child collapses in your arms and has a refreshing cry and everyone's happy. And you're like, that is not how my kids work. So what I wanted Kelly to talk about is like those actual kind of how she got kind of step by step figures out what
you got to apply the theory to like real life.
Yeah, it's like that's the thing. It's like when it doesn't go like it's supposed to in the book, then you're like, oh my god, I'm doing it wrong, and it's just so stressful.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, I hope that gets you excited to come. Sign up in the links below, and we will see you on Monday. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.